Today we're going to put back together a two-piece combat wheel with a 14 by 20 tire for a 5-ton. Diesel's going to help. So two-piece wheels are just that. It's so you can pull the tire off in the field and not have to use tire machines. And plus it'd be pretty much impossible to get a tire over this big of a lip. So they're two pieces, and because of that, they have to have an O-ring that seals off the air. This is that O-ring. It basically goes around the rim there, which I'll show later. I had to take mine apart because it was leaking from the valve stem. This is an old one. Nothing's wrong with it, it's just this bushing is from 1984. This little O-ring, it's brittle. So, got a brand new one with a nice O-ring in it, and then a brand new O-ring for the wheel. Mine still seem to be okay. This is the old one, but since you're in there, reuse it, because it's not very fun or fast to take these apart. So you might as well do it right. Now, most of these tires have run flats in them, which are super heavy and go all the way up into the tire. That way, when you catch a bullet, you can at least drive, and you won't have a total flat. You can still get home on it. Now this has a bead lock insert, aftermarket. I think these are from Felt's Tire. I didn't put these in, but it's just a big rubber pipe that they cut to width, and that ensures that when you lose air pressure or you go air down for off-road, that your beads stay on the wheel because there's nothing else holding them on. But you lose the run flat capability, which is perfect because these tires ride like crap with the run flat. They don't balance, and without it, they actually ride pretty smooth. You can go 65 mile an hour and it's really smooth. Basic tools for this install are an impact. Mine's big, but it's not big enough. I had to call my friend over with a extremely large impact to pull the wheel apart, and I'll show you putting it back together, and obviously pulling apart is just the opposite. These are the wheel nuts. They're actually a little bit ovaled, so they don't come loose, but they're extremely hard to get off. And these are your lug nuts. They're not as hard to get off as the wheel nuts. But you basically need soapy water, can of starting fluid, lighter. That way you can seat the bead. We'll see if I can get it set. It's gonna be a fight. We'll see what happens. So first things first, you need a bucket laid out. There's better ways to do it, but you gotta work with what you got. As you can see, the bucket's already crushed from pulling this apart. Take a combat wheel, set it on the bucket. Soapy water. You want to just lube the crap out of this thing, or else you're going to have a fight and you'll never get it. You can't use enough soapy water. One thing I should probably put in there before it's too late, my new valve stem. Because you can't put that in once you put the tire and run flat on, or the bead lock, because you can't reach in there. Here's the hole for it, and then the top of the stem comes out that way. I'm going to attempt to do this one-handed. The orientation of this matters, so put it on here. You need the little ridge, just like that. Stick it in your wheel, pop it through. Get it squished in there. Take your locking nut, ridge down, thread it on there. Then you just simply tighten that up with a crescent wrench. Make sure that your valve stem is kind of centered in that hole. I'll tighten that up and then show you. Now that's tight. I had to pour a little soapy water in there and make sure that O-ring gets seated, because if you don't, you can have a bad time and have to pull it all the way back apart. But she's on there, she's tight. Now we'll put it back on the bucket. You're definitely gonna wanna scrub this little crack out because that's where the O-ring goes. Make sure that's somewhat clean. Cleaner the better, obviously. Because this and that valve stem are the only thing keeping air in this. So now comes the fun part, getting the wheel on the rim. So again, soapy water, more the better. Water's cheap. Bring your giant tire over. This part's not fun with one guy. And you'll want to use soapy water all over this thing. And you're going to want to get it on this PVC insert as well, or the run flat. You definitely want the inside of it. That way it can slide over the wheel, because that is super tight to the rim. The only thing that you got to pay attention to is where this valve stem comes out. There's a slot in this insert and in your run flats right here, if you can see it. That needs to be in line with this, and it will slide over nicely. If it's not in line, your air will get trapped here. You won't be able to air up your tire. So a lot of people mark it with a pen. Mine's pretty floppy, so hoping I can rotate it when I get it in. See if I can get this thing on there. Definitely not easy with one guy. Close. Well, that's not working like that. Probably what I'm going to do is lay her down flat, pull the insert center. Nice. Then I need to pay attention to where that slot is for the valve stem. It's right here, make a mark. Take your wheel. The wheels aren't very light. Slide that in so the valve stem is in the slot. Press it in like so. The bead popped on. That's actually pretty handy. These things are definitely heavy to throw around. But as you can see, it's seated. I'm going to put it back in the bucket. You know, buckets are not the greatest. If you're going to do more than one tire, I'd suggest using some old rims. Make something out of steel, but for now, we're just going to take this, plop it back on the bucket. Hopefully it sits nice in there. Perfect. So, as you can see, it's kind of a struggle. You can definitely do it with one guy. But there's a valve stem. See that groove? It's in the groove, so it should air up. Now I'll put the other face back on. Again, soapy water is your best friend. Get real nice and soapy. Don't forget your new O-ring. This you can lube up. Some soapy water. It's really important to have this lubed up so it doesn't slip off, because it needs to sit in that groove, and if it falls out of that groove, when you tighten your outer rim down, it will not seal, and it might ruin your O-ring. You might have to redo it, order a new one. O-rings are a little tight, which is good. Grab a screwdriver, push them down. You can kind of see, it's hard to tell, but there's your O-ring. See it moving around in there. Make sure it's down all the way around. Definitely don't rush this. Make sure it's right. These tires are a lot harder to pull apart than they are to put together. Alright, so I've soaked the crap out of that ring, up the tire. Now I'm going to put the new ring on. There's a little hole here that obviously goes over your valve stem. Again, like I just forgot, soapy water is your best friend. Move up everything, that way it can slip into place and set the bead. And your O-ring will slip up. Line up the hole for the valve stem. Get it on. Set the bead. Kind of like that. Then, time for your outer ring nuts. Like I said, these are ovals, so they don't go on very well. You just gotta get them started. Definitely wouldn't hurt to brush your studs off and get the rust off if they're rusty or the old paint. A lot of them are painted over 15 times. Make sure the impact works. Alright, show you how to do this. So you want to do a cross pattern, kind of like you would on any lug nut type deal. Just kind of get them snug. My battery's dying on the impact. Go ahead and change batteries on this thing. Well, my impact doesn't have enough nut to get this all the way down. As you can see, still a massive gap. There shouldn't be any gap there. I'm gonna have to call my friend with the bigger impact. I probably won't need the ether and starting fluid on this since the beads are seating, it appears, but won't know until I can actually get that front rim half bolted all the way down. But so far it's looking fine. The back is seated, the front is halfway seated, and it should seat the rest of the way when I tighten those all the way down. So for now I'm gonna have to wait, but I'll get back to you and we'll tighten this all the way down and air it up and hopefully it holds. All right, back. Turns out I just needed a fresh battery. Got everything tightened down. Moment of truth, let's see if it actually holds air. I'll get back with you when it's aired up a little bit. Really takes forever to air these things up. Been here for like a couple minutes. Already got about 12 psi. Alright, that took a while, but I got to air it up to 70 psi. My other tires are at 70. So far, doesn't sound like there's any leaks. Plenty of soapy water. I don't see anything happening. Probably let it sit overnight. Check it again in the morning just in case. Then comes the fun part of bolting it back on. But yep, that's how you do it. It's really a lot easier putting them together than taking them apart. When you're pulling them apart, those beads do not want to come loose. We had 3 guys jumping on the tire at once trying to break the beads. Put them together really isn't hard. You don't need the ether to set the bead as long as you have it lubed up enough. Then you can stomp the tire in place, and really it wasn't that much of a fight. So there you have it. 2-piece combat wheel with tire install. Well, now that I got the tire repaired, here comes the fun part of putting it back on. Not really sure why this is worthy of a video, but we're gonna do it anyways. These tires are a little under 500 pounds. Mine's a little lighter because it's missing the run flat. But here comes the struggle. See if we can get it on easy. Alright. Pretty easy to roll around. They're not the worst thing in the world to stand back up. Just kind of got to wiggle it in place. Get the bottom under there. Just got to lock it in. Then you get it in place. Normally you want a couple 6-foot bars. So you can shove them under and lift it up. See how strong I'm feeling today. One bar on one side. Another bar on the other side. Get all the junk out of the way. See if you can get your bolt lug nuts lined up a little bit. Used to have to do this in the Marine Corps. We had a little better tools and 2 guys. So if you can get the balance, grab your 2 bars, then lift. Oh. First try. Not bad. Then obviously put your lug nuts on. This side of the truck, left is tight, right is loose. I know it's backwards on most things, but just how they are on this side. The other side is normal. Pro tip, do not put blue Loctite on your lug nut studs. Whoever owned this truck last did that. And let me tell you, it was fun getting the lug nuts off. So we're just gonna tighten these up quick. Let's make it a little easier to get these on. Rotate the tire, then it'll drop in place like that. Remember, lefty tighty, righty loosey on this side of the truck. The other side is normal. Don't matter if it's cross-threaded, tight is tight. And obviously, once you have the lug nuts all started, put the impact on it, run in reverse, lefty tighty. 1.5-inch socket if you're wondering. Oh, battery died. So you want to get these torqued to about 400 pound-feet of torque. Most people use a 6-foot breaker bar, and if you have a big torque wrench, that helps, but just get them super freaking tight and you'll be okay. So yeah, that's how you put a wheel and tire on a 5-ton.